I now call Deputy Owen Murphy. You're sharing deputy with Deputy Atbury and Deputy Lawler.
Thank you, Lieutenant Gordon. I thank you, Minister, for bringing this bill to the House before the break. It's an important bill, and it's important that we get it right. I often receive complaints about the length of time it takes to bring legislation into the House and to see it through and to put it out there. And indeed, I've made those complaints myself. But when it comes to this piece of legislation, it is incredibly important that we do take the required time with it, with every single aspect, with every detail, because once it leaves this House, once we are finished with it, it is then the law of the land. And we have to be absolutely certain that the intended consequences of the bill, what we want to achieve with it, are those that are actually realised in the real world when it's put into practice. And so it's necessary to take the time to have the many days of debate that we have had, to bring it through committee and to scrutinise every single aspect of the bill because of its importance and because, as I said, once it leaves this House, there's nothing more that we can do with it, and it's then the law of the land. I do regret that we're in our fourth day of debate on this bill, but because of the way that things have happened this week and last week, I haven't been able to listen to all contributions. And because it is so important, I would have liked to have been here for all contributions. And I apologise if I go over ground that's been covered by previous speakers. But I would like to take up just briefly on Deputy Phelan's point from earlier, talking about the personal element of this for elected representatives. It's not something I ever imagined that I would be involved with when I was elected to Dublin City Council in 2009, that I'd be calling to people's homes and to their doors, and I would have them breaking down in tears in front of me, that I'd have people coming into my office in Ranelagh talking through their problems and not being able to finish because they were overwhelmed with emotion and the difficulty that they were facing, and then writing to me because they were embarrassed about that having happened and apologising to me, and then me feeling terrible embarrassment myself that they would feel that way. You're not trained to deal with these sorts of situations. You know, we're elected councillors, as Deputy Phelan said, or I was at the time, we were elected TDs, but we're not actual councillors to deal with these very difficult problems. But because we are public representatives, because we are elected by the people, and they come to us with a whole plethora of issues and problems, we're at the very coalface. And while it's difficult for us, we can only imagine how difficult it might be for people in that situation, facing these terrible debt burdens and the effects that has throughout their lives and their ability to have their own happiness and to get on with the day-to-day. I mean, I myself was personally lucky in this regard in that I wasn't in the country for the boom years, for the worst boom years, 2004 to 2008. I didn't take out a mortgage. While I do have debt, I'm just about managing it. And so, unlike a lot of my peers and friends of mine who have fallen into very difficult situations because they did buy at the height of the boom, and because after that maybe they or their partner lost the job and all of a sudden the mortgage repayments were looking impossible. Perhaps they were borrowing against the house itself for other things. Maybe it wasn't wise, but they did it, and now they're in very difficult situations. The young people, they're my age, and they're looking ahead and they're finding it very difficult to see a future or to realise a way out of that. And when we come to pieces of legislation like this, that's what we're trying to address. We're trying to help those people who are looking for help and who need help, who have taken responsibility for their situation and now want to find some way out of it. And we have to make sure that we can provide a path or a way of getting out of this difficult situation for them. This bill concerns personal debt and insolvency, but I think the context in which we debate it is very important because, of course, when we look at the national economic situation, the country itself is insolvent and is currently in a debt and deficit management arrangement. And in relation to the debate that we were going to have on this bill, I asked Minister Noonan last week for some information. This is an experiment to divide the deficit and the general government debt amongst the population, and he informed me of the following figures, which I believe are worth repeating here. At the end of June 2012, the state's national debt stood at 131.9 billion. Now, given an estimated population of just under 4.6 million, an individual's share of national debt outstanding at the end of June 2012 is just under €28,750. That's for everyone, every single person, not just those who are earning a wage. Every single person in the state, as recorded in the census of last year, €28,750. If we look at the deficit for this year, that was estimated at 18,655 million, or 18.6 billion, for this year alone. Again, taking the population of 4.6 million, an individual's share of this year's exchequer deficit is about €4,065. And again, that's for everyone, not just those earning a wage, every single person in the state. €4,000 of borrowing per person for this year alone. And that's wholly separate from the banking debt. It's wholly separate from legacy debt. That's day-to-day borrowing for this year just to keep the show on the road. Now, if you want to think of this in household terms, say a person is working and they have a stay-at-home spouse and 3 dependents, that's roughly €20,000 of borrowing by that person for this year alone, before he or she has even begun to consider their own personal situation and what debts the family may have in terms of household or a failed business or a difficult mortgage or something else. €20,000 for a household of borrowing before they even got to their own personal debts. That's the situation that the state is facing at the moment. And that's the context in which we have this debate on the personal insolvency bill.
Just to interrupt you, Deb, sorry, you've spoken about 6 minutes. I think Deputy Breen also will be getting 6, is that right? And Deputy Lawler, 5, okay. Well, maybe if you wish to have another few minutes.
Sorry, I thought I had 10. Sorry.
10.
No, but if you want me to conclude,
yes. No.
Yes.
It's a matter of yourself. There's 20 minutes at the start. And Deputy Lawler, I'm not too sure about his position, but you continue on for another few minutes anyway.
Thank you. When you want me to conclude, ask Controller, please just indicate. But there's the national debt and the deficit, and that's something that the state has to look after. Of course, we as individuals are responsible for it, and we will pay it off ourselves through taxes over the course of our lifetime. But it's not immediately relevant to people in the way the personal debt is, their own personal situations and what they face every day. The government will deal with the national finances, but where people are now struggling, as we know they are, with their own finances, and we know it is a significant amount, we have to introduce legislation that will allow some form of resolution for these people. Because we know what exists at present is outdated, as Deputy Phelan said, and we know that it's not enough. And because we know that people need to find a way out of the prison that debt can be. This bill and this legislation isn't going to be necessarily palatable to a great many people, but it is necessary. Those who are perhaps more prudent or who are not as unlucky or who are just getting by, just about getting by, may well have difficulty with this legislation or some of the consequences it may have for people that they know or for people in wider society. But we have to accept the principle that people can make mistakes, that it is okay to fail, and that everyone, no matter the cause, can have an opportunity to start again. And it should also be recognised that the resolution measures contained in this bill are not easy resolution measures, but that they do seek to be just. And that responsibility is at the core of this legislation. I was going to go on. I had a number of questions I wanted to put to the Minister, but in the interest of fairness to Deputy Breen and to other speakers after me, I might just formally submit them to the Minister separately from this debate. But I would like to thank the Minister for bringing forward this legislation before the break. This is a final point. I think it's important that when we talk about debt forgiveness, when we talk about it being resolved, that it is resolved. This is a small country. We have small social and economic and business spheres, and people's memories do remain, and they will remember things. But insofar as credit rating is concerned, or that opportunity for someone to start again, that must be there once they come through these procedures. Thank you.